Welcome back to Hardball. The opening of Saturday Night Live was a little rough on the president. Let's listen to another segment of it right now.
I said I'd make improvements in the war in Afghanistan. Is it better? No, I think it's actually worse. How about healthcare reform? Hell no.
Any truth in that? Comedy, by the way, went through a whole series of cases where he promised something and couldn't deliver. Chuck Todd's NBC's chief White House correspondent. Thank you. And also NBC News' political director. Eugene Robinson is only a Pulitzer Prize-winning news columnist for the Washington Post and an MSNBC analyst. Trying to get all the titles here. Hey, Chuck, you're great, and I always know what you're going to say because I know it's going to be brilliant. And what you've got here now is brilliance. You have decided, almost like when the midnight at New Year's, when that ball starts to come down from the top, you've decided that now we've reached the point where this president hasn't delivered. He should have delivered by now, and therefore he's got problems.
Well, what it is what Saturday Night Live captured was this issue that the Olympics issue brought home, which is, you know what, he hasn't closed the deal on anything in quite some time. The stimulus, getting that done, in many ways, that was the last thing he got done, right? The big thing that he signed, and yet we're still trying to figure out, get it all spent. It's still not all spent, and there's still debate and question on that. Beyond that, everything else is a ball in the air, whether it's the plan to close Gitmo, whether it's health care reform, which we've missed like 3 or 4 different deadlines just on getting bills out of different committees, whether it's Iran and nuclear and this nuclear disarmament talks. So it just brought home the collective issue. Now, it's 9 months in, you know, and in 3 to 6 months from now, he could have check marks of yes by all of those boxes. But it is a reminder that it isn't there yet, and that's what made the Olympics thing such a stomach punch, I think, to this White House.
Do you accept that premise? And if so, where are we going to get closure? Iraq, healthcare, Iran, Afghanistan, or Gitmo? Where's the possibility of a W next to any of those contests?
Well, you know, how soon do you want the W? I mean, as said, you know,
Chuck, who's just decided it, I think it's time.
Well, okay.
No, Saturday Night Live, let's lay it on their shoulders. Saturday Night Live says that this is time for him to deliver.
The fact is that it takes a while to get the stuff done. It's taken 60 years for health care, so it might take a few more months. And
by the way, just to remind, Terry Jeffrey was on earlier, and not for a late hit here, because I said it when he was here. These are inherited crap. All this stuff that he's being hit with, he hasn't solved yet, are problems that were left on his doorstep on January 20th.
Well, the problems were there. He attacked on many fronts. He said, we're going to do all these things. And so, it's not out of bounds for especially for a satirical TV show to say, aha, well, where are the results? But there's a long way to go in the Obama presidency, in the Obama first term, and these things will reach their conclusion. He'll get health care or not. He'll come to a policy in Afghanistan. We'll have a better idea of where it's going. I think they remain committed to closing Guantanamo by their deadline, but they found it takes longer than it does.
We are getting out of Iraq,
we are getting out of Iraq, and I wrote and I've said that I did think the Olympics thing was a bad gamble because I didn't think they were ever going to get it. You could say at least
you knew more than Daly knew. Let me go back to Chuck, because I think it's a great question. When you cover the White House these days, do you get a sense that they feel the pressure from, well, Saturday Night Live, because it is in fact not a leading indicator, but it's a good example of sort of the zeitgeist, the sense of the times, that they have the sense that this will work as a cold open.
Well, look, I'll say this. They believe that if they sign a health care reform bill in the next couple of months, that will be one of these big accomplishments that will serve as a morale booster to the base. This is as much about Democrats feeling like, geez, we're trying to do all these things. Let's get something done. Let's put something in the done box. The to-do list is very long, but you got to get something big and substantial in that done box. And frankly, legislatively, it's that first year that you can get a lot of stuff done in Congress, because you know what? If you don't get it done this year, next year is one of those even-numbered years. That's even that much harder to get something through Congress. So that's why, look, I do think they're feeling the pressure.
I'm sorry, Chuck, while you're on that, what is the betting odds there that they can do this, the health care? A bill which has got like 60% at least of what they wanted in it. Something substantially improving the situation.
They believe they're going to sign a bill. Now, I'll tell you this. I've talked to some senators on Capitol Hill who are just exhausted from the debate. And one fear that they have is that this thing is now so defined as Obama's health care plan that the Democratic Party is going to own every health care problem. This is a fear I've talked to. This is a couple senators who are going to support anything that comes out of that Finance Committee. But the fear is that any problem somebody has now with their health insurance, they're going to start, instead of blaming health insurance companies and cursing them, that they will just knee-jerk and blame Democrats and the president. And while that seems completely unfair, it's just how badly I think the message fight has been mismanaged here as far as some of these Democrats on Capitol Hill are concerned. Now, look, none of them are profiles in courage sometimes. You know, they're ducking and hiding behind the president in this thing. But it does show you sort of the exhaustion that some of these folks are feeling up and the pressure that they're feeling up on Capitol Hill.
Well, ironically, though, the president does have one gigantic achievement, but it's a dog that didn't bark. There's a growing consensus that this administration, along with Bernanke at the Fed, managed to keep us from sliding into a new Great Depression. They saved the economy. That's a huge deal.
But I agree with the argument there, because I think I'm a Keynesian, and I believe we did meet because of printing the money and fiscal stimulus. The president offset that tremendous downfall in consumer spending and investment. But since the world didn't go into depression outside of the United States, isn't that a hard argument to make, that he won by doing that?
Well,
name a big country that went into depression.
Well, it's not that hard, but the U.S. is still the biggest economy, and we had to lead on that. And you could, I think there is a consensus, not just among the hardcore Keynesians, but among the Reaganites as well, that this administration did a fabulous job in crisis management and keeping this whole thing from getting worse, from turning into a catastrophe.
By the way, congratulations to your colleague down there, Robert Gibbs, the press secretary. I was so impressed this Saturday to see that he drove down to Richmond for Jody Powell's memorial service, his predecessor there. He must, that's a lot of class there. By the way, Chuck, while I have you, when does the White House see the most important deadline for them to achieve political success? Is it on the eve of 2012 or on the eve of 2010?
You know what? I think they believe at the end of the day it's on the eve of 2012. I can't tell you how many people have reminded me, older Democrats that are connected to this administration, who sit there and say, hey, we're in the same position Reagan was in late 81 and 82, and so maybe the midterms in 2010 will look like 82. That year Republicans took a bit of a beating, and then all of a sudden, morning in America again. And that was, you know, 1983, 84. So, look, that's what White Houses worry about. They worry about the every 4 year. They certainly don't want to, you know, they don't want to lose a lot of seats in 2010, but I think they think it's inevitable that they're going to lose some, particularly in the House and possibly a few in the Senate. And the question is, what's more important? I think in their minds, it's more important to be a two-term president.
Wow, and thanks for that analysis. Chuck Todd at the White House, Chief Washington correspondent, White House correspondent for NBC. Eugene Robinson, thank you, sir.